Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Fantasy Phenom here at Marcus in Jersey City. Mike. Let's get started. Our first two contestants tonight from right here in Jersey City. He tells me he lives 2 blocks away. Should have a lot of support here for James Buzzone. And he does. And from Far Rockaway, New York, John Schiavone. Gentlemen, welcome. Schiavone, as they say in the old country.
Yes, sir.
All right, gentlemen, welcome. Questions for, let's see, James.
Okay.
Where did you grow up? What were your first good feelings about sports? Both those questions.
Good feelings about, so I grew up in Edison, New Jersey, about a half-hour south of here. Like you said, I live 2 blocks away. Best feeling in sports for me is in the 3rd grade, the 1986 Mets. I am a Mets fan. I was in the 3rd grade, and I went to Catholic school, and we all had to vote. We all had to wear uniforms, and you got to vote on who was going to win. And all my friends said, my dad tells me the Mets had no chance of winning, and I voted for the Mets. And you want to know something? It was my big day. I actually got to wear sweatpants to school one day because I voted for the Mets. So it's a fond memory for me, the 86 Mets.
All right, John, where did you grow up, and what's your first sports memory?
I grew up in Far Rockaway, New York. Lived in the same house my entire life with my 2 loving parents. But my first sports memory, it's a story. My father, when I was 3 years old, he gave me a baseball. He told me to hold the baseball in my hand. I stood up. He's like, "You know what, John? You are now old enough to hold a baseball. That means you are now old enough to become a New York Mets fan." I've just been indoctrinated and brainwashed ever since. But a couple of days later, he took me to my first Mets game, and I think I watched them. I watched whoever. I forgot who the starter was. It's a big problem of mine. I forget names at times. But I watched the Mets pitch a shutout, and it was a really great experience. You know, sitting. I was in the nosebleed seats. Didn't care. I was just so happy to be at my first baseball game. And when I was waiting for people to sign autographs, you know, John Franco actually came over. He signed my autograph, and then he signed other people's autographs. But he signed my autograph. My first baseball game, I got an autograph signed by John Franco. I was happy. I didn't know what else to say about it. It was a really good memory, fond memory of me and my father.
All right, John, you call yourself the mouth of the South.
Mouth of the South.
How do we come up with that, being that you're from Far Rockaway?
Well, when I first started doing college radio when I was 19, my partner, who was a DJ, he decided that when I talk sports, I talk a lot, as you guys obviously know by now. So he decided that you're mouth of the South.
All right, fair enough. Guys, the athlete that you dislike the most, current, former, athlete you dislike the most, and why?
Me first?
Sure.
Terrell Owens. Fat enough.
And how come?
I think, you know what? There's a common denominator. When someone's that great of a talent and they have to go and they constantly get traded from team to team to team, it's not everybody else's fault. It's that one key denominator. So a guy that's got the greatest talent in the world, but at the same time just can't stop running his mouth and goes from team to team to team, it drives me nuts.
All right, John?
Well, the athlete I hate the most, since I am a Mets fan, I will say Armando Benitez. Walking in the winning run in the World Series. That has just drawn my hatred ever since the year 2000. I will forever remember that. I don't care who else the Mets ever had that was a bad relief pitcher. Armando just kills it for me.
All right, one more question for you guys. Besides sports, what are your main interests, John?
Well, my main interests, I like hanging out, having fun, going around New York City. I like exploring places. I'm that guy that will ride the subway just to ride all the subway lines and see what's at every stop, look along the subway map. I'm just that kind of guy that likes to explore different things and do different things all the time. But, you know, besides sports, that's my main thing. But, I love sports. I love sports talk radio. I mean, I'm a radio guy. I love doing it. It's been a passion of mine since I was a kid, and that's really where I found a home. But I love being an explorer.
Part of my passion is, well, my day job right now is I work in sales, and in sales you constantly have the banter back and forth, similar to sports radio. And what I love more than nothing else is I love talking about sales strategies, sales negotiations, looking at something from beginning to end, and kind of going through that process. And you know, I guess the other part of me too is I love watching court cases and court TV because I love that argument. I love the back and forth. So yeah, that's what I'm interested in.
All right, time to start with the rants. You see the clock right there, 2 minutes on the clock. James, you're up first. Front center if you could. John, if you could move over a little bit. And you're on the clock, 2 minutes. Let's hear from you.
Sports Radio 66, this is James Buzzone here. Well, good news, sports fans. The NFL, we got a season coming there. Bad news is, I don't think we're going to have an NBA season. And you want to know something, in my opinion? It's all the owner's fault. So let's get right into it. Here's the reasons why. There's three things holding up the collective bargaining agreement right now. One, profit sharing. Owners are saying, we're not making enough money, so you want to know something? We're going to take it from the players. Two, they want to put in a hard cap right there and say, we're putting in a hard cap, and we want to renegotiate contracts that we've already agreed to. And three, owners want to take away those dreaded guaranteed contracts that they've been giving out for years. And you want to know something? What drives me crazy is it's not my fault as the fan, it's not the player's fault, it's the owner's fault who are giving these guaranteed contracts out to the Eddie Currys and all these others of the world. Because what I'm trying to figure out here, what I'm trying to get, is the NBA in 2009-2010 generated $3.6 billion in revenue, had the highest grossing NBA Game 7 finals that year, and then last year had the highest ticket sales that they've had in 12 years. They're at the zenith of profitability. They're at the apex. And these owners are standing over here and saying, hey, we're not profitable, we need some more money. It doesn't make any sense. So one of two things has to happen here. Either the owners need to step up and open up the books, and I mean really open up the books this time. Show us down to the penny how you're losing money and why the players should take a 17% cut, or do what they're doing over in Major League Baseball and get some profit sharing amongst the owners and get this thing back on track. Because what they've created is a disaster. Darren Williams has already committed overseas. Kobe Bryant, Kevin Durant, they're thinking about it. We got risk with these NBA stars and getting injured. And then we have these NBA journeymen that are agreeing to 2- and 3-year contractual terms. These are binding contracts. They're going to have to go over there and play. This is making my skin crawl. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I want your thoughts. 877-377-6666. I want your thoughts. I want your ideas. And I want you to be ready because you're now in the Buzz Zone.
All right. How do you expect that the NBA lockout will be resolved ultimately?
Well, I think one thing is going to happen, unfortunately, as a huge basketball fan, is we're not going to see basketball this season. And if we do, I think it's going to be a very abbreviated season. I think what's going to happen, though, unfortunately, too, is the NBA, you know, these owners, there's 10 billionaires that are owners, and the other ones are 100 millionaires. They can hold out a lot longer than a lot of these players can. So I think what's going to happen is, I think we're not going to see basketball this year. I think they're going to hold out. I think the players are going to give a little, not that whole 17%, because the owners want basketball too. I think they're going to meet a little bit in the middle, but I don't think there's basketball this year.
All right, let's move over to football. Will Plaxico Burress be a success with the Jets or not?
I think he'll be a success for two reasons. He likes Rex Ryan. He's already said that he has. He's already down and out. People aren't sure if he can pull it off. Rex is in his ear. Rex is telling him, you know what, you're the guy. You know what, I believe in you. And he's not their first option. He's their third option. So he doesn't have the weight of the world on his shoulders. He needs to go in there. He needs to help them just get past the AFC Championship. So will he be a success? Absolutely. I think he will.
All right, in terms of baseball, the Yankees at the trade deadline for the first time in many, many years didn't do anything. Good move, bad move, surprising move?
It's not surprising. I think what's good, though, is they have a couple of things that I think their pitching rotation, I think, is good. The other thing they can do going into the postseason that people want to, you know, we've tinkered with a little bit is you can also, if A-Rod were to come back, whenever he does come back, you can put him at a DH spot and you can put Nunez on the corner and you can get much more hitting productivity out of that special DH right there. So it doesn't shock me. What I'd say it'd be more shocking to me if the Yankees in about another year or two didn't start making more moves. I think what they have going into the playoffs is the right way to go, though.
One other question. Who will be the Mets shortstop in 2012?
I think it'll be Jose Reyes. I think the Mets, he's their franchise, he's their cornerstone, he's filled with energy, he'll be their guy, he'll be their shortstop. I don't think they're going to deviate from that.
All right, James, thank you very much. John, you're on the clock.
Mouth of the South on the Fan, Sports Radio 66, WFAN, coming to you live from Marker's Bar in Jersey City, New Jersey. And if you like hot stove sports talk, you got third-degree burns this week. You had so many players moving around to so many different teams. The Jets lost Brad Smith. They lost out on the Namdi Asamoah sweepstakes. They re-signed Cromartie. Good for them. But I think the biggest story of the weekend was the team that stood pat, that did nothing, the New York Yankees. And I've got to say, a lot of Yankee fans are getting very upset at Brian Cashman. They needed a number 2 starter. Who was the darling of the trade market? That would be Ubaldo Jimenez. And I can understand why Yankee fans wanted to get Ubaldo Jimenez with a 6-9 record and a 4.40 ERA. Wait a minute, hold on. A.J. Burnett has a better record and a lower ERA in the AL East. Ubaldo Jimenez was currently pitching in the NL West before the trade deadline. He was in the NL West, which is starving for offense, And you're now going to expect him to go to the New York Yankees under the bright lights in the Bronx, pitch in October, and expect him to do well? I don't think that's going to happen. The Ubaldo Jimenez trade would be a trade for upside. But what were the Yankees supposed to give up? Ivan Nova, the Killer Bees, and Jesus Montero. It's too big of a price, and I think every Yankee fan should be very proud of Brian Cashman for holding on to the future and keeping the right now well intact, because Ivan Nova is 9-4, better ERA than Ubaldo Jimenez, and I gotta say something, I think Brian Cashman did the absolute right thing by holding on to his farm system. 877-337-6666 is the number to call. When we come back from the break, we're gonna talk a little more about this hot stove weekend. I'm the Mouth of the South, thanks for listening.
And how do you think the Mets handled the trading deadline?
I think the Mets did what they absolutely had to do. You know what? I understand, you know what, they were, 7.5 out once the trade deadline finally came around. And I understand, like, they're back and forth, but they're a seesaw baseball team. Let's be realistic. When they traded Carlos Beltran, they were on a 500 team. What are they now? Still around a 500 team. They went on that winning streak in Cincinnati. They won those 2 games. They won that 1 game against Washington. And ever since Beltran was traded, they're 3-3. They're 500. They're the same thing as they were when Beltran was still here. Except now, you've actually got Zach Wheeler, a prospect which you wouldn't have gotten if you kept Beltran and let him go after the season was over, because his contract stated that you could not get prospects when the season was over and he got re-signed. I think it was a great move.
Give me your take on the Islanders referendum yesterday on Long Island.
A sin. An absolute sin. Because you know what? I went to high school in Long Island. I went to Kellenberg Memorial High School over in Uniondale, Long Island. It's a stone's throw away from the Nassau Coliseum. Let's be realistic. That area in Hempstead, I can tell you from personal experience, it's a dump, it's a road. Without the Islanders there, what is around there? You have local businesses, that Starbucks, that Coliseum Deli over there, that are gonna see almost no patronage if the county didn't vote that in. Also, there was other referendums that the county needed done in that vote. It wasn't just about a sports team. I think it's what everybody misunderstood. It wasn't just about the Islanders getting a new Coliseum. It's about Nassau getting a new Coliseum. That building's falling in on itself. And if you have the Islanders there, you know what? The county gets revenue, people get jobs. The building of the minor league ballpark, I think that should have been left out of it, but whatever. People get jobs, people get money, and if you pretty much let that go on, you let that go, the future of Nassau County is looking very bleak unless they do something about the Nassau Coliseum.
All right, John, thank you very much.
Thank you.